Welcome back to another episode of the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Neil C. Hughes, and today we're going to be exploring the intricate world of AI and data analytics. Because joining me today is James Fisher, Chief Strategy Officer at Qlik, and they have been a pioneer in integrating AI into data analytics. And with their recent acquisition of Talend, they're taking giant strides in ensuring data quality and governance and so many other exciting aspects. So James is going to be joining us today to share insights on Qlik's cutting-edge AI strategy, their work with partners from Snowflake to Databricks, and also how they're making generative AI a reality for businesses around the world. So whether you are a tech enthusiast, a business leader, or someone just curious about the future, where this is taking us, I'm hoping to provide you some invaluable insights into the future of AI in data analytics and business intelligence. But enough from me. Let's get James Fisher onto the podcast now and unravel the power of data. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so it's great to be here, Neil. So my name is James Fisher. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Qlik. I've been with the company nearly 10 years, spent my whole career working in the world of performance management, data, AI and analytics. And ultimately, I'm responsible for leading a team that's driving our company vision, our strategy and our vision forward as we think about creating value for our customers all around the world.
Well, it's a huge pleasure to have you on the podcast. I spoke with many members of your team and people from senior management at Qlik at the Qlik event in Vegas earlier this year, just as the world was starting to go crazy for AI, and so much has changed in the last 6-7 months. So to begin with, can you tell me a little bit more about Qlik's strategic vision for integrating AI into data analytics and business intelligence, especially in the context of your recent AI strategy announcement? And again, feel free to tell everyone listening more about that who may have missed some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, look, this year has been a whirlwind of AI and GenAI. And, look, Neil, we've been around this enterprise technology space for a while. And, there's been many things over the years that have been, shall we say, hyped up a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of excitement created about them. And maybe they're not quite delivered on the promise. And certainly the world of generative AI and everything that has really burst onto the scene with chat technologies this year has created a wealth of momentum. But I think that this really does have the potential to be truly transformative. And even over the course of the year, we've seen the narrative evolve. And ultimately, enterprises around the world, our customers are asking us to help them build a meaningful AI strategy. I think when we first started, even with what we showed at the event in Vegas in May, we were just sort of scratching the very tip of the surface of the opportunity around AI. And I think that's going to, we still haven't got that much further below the surface, to be honest. There's a lot more that we don't know that we do know. But folks are looking to move beyond science experiments. Folks are looking to create meaningful value. And the announcements that we put in place, what we call Qlik Stage, is all about setting the stage for customers to be successful with AI. I think that generative AI creates a rising tide for all forms of artificial intelligence. Indeed, all forms of investment in data and analytics remain a top priority. So ultimately, creating that foundation, finding ways to lower barriers to entry, augmenting the pipeline, providing a much more conversational interface into insight generation, but then triggering the action, embedding this in key workflows, and ultimately looking for much more advanced deployment options, particularly around the myriad of different elements around LLMs and how they can be trained and deployed, are areas that customers are looking for help with. And we've taken a very, I think, meaningful approach to that, making sure that we deliver capability in the here and now for customers to get value from in the here and now, as perhaps opposed to announcing a whole host of things that may come down the pipe in the future.
And I think we've both been in the industry long enough to remember the days even before AI and the age-old phrase in IT, garbage in and garbage out. We've all seen the impacts of that. And I would argue that line has never been more important. So in your view, Why is data quality so crucial for the success of AI, particularly for large language models? And how are you at Qlik ensuring both the quality and integrity of data in its platforms?
Well, Neil, let me take you back a little bit. Do you remember the time of big data?
Yes.
Yeah, we all remember that. And I think that when we talked about big data in the world of BI and analytics, we talked about the 4 Vs, this idea of volume, velocity, variety, and veracity of data. And I hate to take you and all of the listeners back to those times. And largely in the world of general reporting and dashboarding, I think we pretty much fixed those. We pretty much put infrastructure in place that allows us to manage those deployments in a way that all of those 4 Vs are adequately met and supported. In the world of generative AI, then I think, volume and velocity, probably still got that covered. But the veracity and the variety of data that is now required to train LLMs, to support meaningful value creation generative AI initiatives, we haven't solved that problem. That is a huge effort. And we talk to customers, well, less than 50% are ultimately saying that, it's in the 20s really, are saying that their data fabric is in a state that can really support enterprise scale generative AI initiatives. They're all looking down the barrel of having to deal with more data in order to create a meaningful generative AI investment. So this need for data quality, for data governance around generative AI is critically important. And it starts with getting that trusted foundation of data, that ability to be able to acquire the data that you need wherever it resides, to make sure it's structured in the right way, that it's delivered to a place that it can create a value that you can use to train LLMs on it, but also do that in a way that, protects the IP, protects the integrity of the data. We've got a customer, a very large automotive customer, who invested in a data fabric, what they call their data factory. They use that to support all of their reporting, their traditional BI and dashboard initiatives. They then broaden that reach to support all of their predictive analytic capabilities, sort of traditional AI use cases. And they're now using that same data fabric to support their ChatGPT integrations and their generative AI initiatives. So that foundational layer is critically important. And we've assembled a portfolio of tools that allow customers to create that modern data fabric.
And also back in May, Qlik made the headlines and shook up the data industry by successfully acquiring Talend, a move which many saw as you guys further solidifying your position in the data transformation, data quality and data governance realm. So I'm curious, a few months later, how do you envision this enhancing your capabilities in data transformation and governance? What are the unique advantages do you think this brings to your customers as we start to look at life in 2024?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, we are super excited to bring the Qlik and Talend teams together, on both sides of the house. Incredible talent, incredible technology. And it's just been a pleasure to watch these two organizations and two sets of technologies start to come together and start to create immediate value for our customers. This is a moment, and my CEO, Mike Capone, reminds me of this all the time. This is a moment that we've been planning and working on for, the last 5-6 years, really ever since, Qlik became a private company again, reinvesting, building our cloud platform, broadening our portfolio with data governance catalog capabilities, then bringing in data integration capabilities. And now with that rich transformation power, that rich data quality preparation and governance capability that Talend comes, this is the time. Generative AI is really the tipping point here, I think, for this to become not just a priority, but an absolute must of the investment area for organizations around the world. So that ability for us to create a data and analytics platform, a modern data fabric that provides best-in-class solutions that could be deployed together or independently of one another to solve customers' data problems in the world of BI, analytics, and now AI, generative AI, is exactly what we've striven to put in place. And we're only just beginning to see the value that comes from that with some of the integrations that are coming down the line. Customers are super excited about the combination of the two organizations. And as we think about that growth, the momentum we're seeing in our cloud platform, then that really becomes a highly scalable way for our customers to experience, to learn about these technologies and get value from them very quickly.
And as we've mentioned a few times, GenAI has dominated conversations throughout the years, throughout this year, and businesses were initially concerned about keeping their data private. And I think we're all beginning to find ways around that now. So as we look into 2024, how do you see the role and impact of GenAI in the workplace next year? And how are Qlik's products evolving to maybe better meet the needs of this new era in enterprise data analytics? I would imagine you're incredibly busy now having conversations around this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's worth taking a step back in some regard. You think about the world of generative AI and, ChatGPT sort of burst onto the scenes at the turn of the year. The reality is, this technology has been around for a while. Qlik has had a co-pilot chat type experience built in our product in 10 languages for over 5 years, freely available as part of our cloud platform to our customers. And that's seen, great adoption and incredible usage. So this transformation in terms of the way in which we as individuals, as teams, and as organizations work with data, it sort of goes way back beyond the impact of what's happened with ChatGPT. And it's been a transformation that's changed the nature of the workplace for as long as Qlik existed, right? We've been around for 30 years. This is our 30-year anniversary. And, from the very first inception of bringing the power of the human mind together with the database to solve real-world business problems with one of our very first customers in Sweden, that transformation has continued. And today, as we think about generative AI, for me, it all comes about just broadening the reach. We've talked a long time about democratization of data. We've talked a long time about, the reach of data and analytics into the organization beyond just a few experts and data scientists into the hands of knowledge workers, operational workers, and now really out into the consumer world. And we've got customers that are giving their customers access to data about the services that are being provided to them. So there's a much richer community of users. At the same time, we've seen that the biggest hindrance to value from any AI initiative and analytics investment has been data literacy. The ability to understand how to read, work, and analyze with data has held value creation back. And AI literacy is, I think, one element that we need to continue to address alongside data literacy. But certainly generative AI will do that. It will lower the barrier to entry. It will allow people to engage in insights and ask questions of data, create insights in a much more seamless way. And that, I think, will ultimately enrich everybody in the workplace. There's a lot of talk about fear of generative AI, fear of missing out, but also fear of doing something perhaps that harms the organization in some way. There's a lot of questions around generative AI and what it means for individuals in the workplace. Are roles going to disappear? And certainly I think we'll see that generative AI will evolve the nature of the workplace, will change the dynamic of people's roles, but it will create new opportunities. And just as I think we've seen the workplace evolve with data over the last 30 years, so it will continue perhaps at a more exponential pace. But as long as we're flexible, as long as we stay educated, as long as we stay informed, as long as we govern the landscape around us, then I think there's a lot of opportunity and any risk can certainly be managed.
And I've also been reading recently that Qlik has been working closely with cloud partners such as Snowflake and Databricks. So how do those collaborations also enhance the delivery of large language models in the cloud? And ultimately, what benefits, what value are they bringing to your customers too?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the technology partner ecosystem with the Snowflake, Databricks, AWS, Azure, Google is critically important to Qlik and, really represents, I think, an advantage for us. We're able to work with these organizations at a highly strategic level. We're a part of the infrastructure that brings data into those environments. We've seen over the years the migration of data from on-premises into the cloud be a huge driver of the partnerships that we have with those organizations, and investments in AI and generative AI are only ultimately going to accelerate that. One of the things that I think is really interesting about the notion of the cloud platform generally is that we've seen this issue of data gravity over the years, and the idea that data will move to where it needs to be consumed to address latency issues, to work with applications that now exist at the edges of the organization in the cloud, much more distributed from what exists in a much more traditional, say, centralized IT model. This creates a kind of an interesting dynamic, a push and pull of data from the center, highly governed, to the edges. And generative AI, I think, is going to add an interesting flavor to that. Organizations are making big investments in their cloud platforms, are working still today, I think, across a hybrid landscape of different cloud technologies. And Qlik has built a cloud platform that works with all of those cloud platforms. Wherever our customers have data, we can help them access it. We can work with that data. And I think generative AI is going to underline the importance of that hybrid use case, making that trusted data available wherever it needs to be used for training of domain-specific applications, for training of domain-specific LLMs, or much broader deployments. I think you'll see that bear out. There's been a lot of talk in the last couple of years around treating data as a product. And, for me, that's all about, I'm a product guy. That's all about looking and applying the principles of product management to your data. Who's going to use it? What purpose is it going to solve? What are the requirements within that? And creating that data product that then can be consumable and solve a key problem has been something that I think we'll see accelerate through the cloud data warehouses and ultimately into those large language model deployments as well.
And of course, every new tech project in 2024, due to economic uncertainty and businesses being forced to do more with less, it will be judged by things like ROI and business value that project will offer. So just to bring to life everything we're talking about here today, do you have any success stories or case studies that you can share that will just highlight the practical benefits and real-world applications of Qlik's AI-driven data analytics?
Yeah, I think before I get into some of the examples, it's useful, Neil, just to sort of say that we've seen a lot of generative AI initiatives. I mentioned it earlier, start as science projects. Yeah. And ultimately, they don't include a business goal. They don't include a defined use case. So making sure that you understand what you want to do, how you want to measure it, it really is a foundational element of approaching AI. Then you build that trusted foundation of data to get you started, to get you to value quickly. So I think that's really worth emphasizing as a really critical step. But organizations that do that well avoid some of the common pitfalls that we're starting to see emerge from these type of initiatives can really drive meaningful value. A customer that's very dear to my heart is an organization called Harman. They're a $10 billion company. I know and love them because they have the speakers that are inside my car, incredible product, 32,000 employees, a huge organization now with a very diverse set of product capabilities. And they've been on a journey with data and analytics to really modernize their landscape overall, replacing some legacy self-service capabilities and really creating a single enterprise standard for BI, for analytics, and for AI based upon Qlik. And they've done that really to eliminate silos of data. And certainly in the world of generative AI, I think siloed projects and siloed use cases is something that we need to be wary of. So that investment for them has allowed them to deploy AI and analytics much more quickly with less risk associated with it. They're now working with much larger sets of data, and that is creating huge value for them. And it's that foundation that they've invested in that is really now where they're starting to see the power of ChatGPT integrated alongside Qlik. So we've delivered a set of connectors and capabilities that allow our customers to build these types of integrations. And that's really empowering their technical teams to gather contextual and predictive insights, bring that world of structured and unstructured data together, and really give them just much deeper insights in a much more conversational way. And I think there's an interesting dynamic here. And certainly, we'll be publishing our trends for next year in January. One of the elements we see there is this idea of from AI to BI and back again. And you may start with a question through a natural language interface, something like a ChatGPT. But as you want to get richer, more deeper insights, you might need to go into an analytic environment, get that next answer, come back and ask another question. And I think what Harman are really doing here is sort of pioneering that interface from an end user experience to say, get those much richer, deeper insights. Another example, and I talk about this a lot, is how investments in generative AI create a rising tide for investments in all analytics and all forms of AI themselves. And ARH, Appalachian Regional Healthcare, is a healthcare provider, customer of ours in the US, that really got started, I think, very early with their AI initiatives, particularly their AutoML initiatives. And they've applied that to some very defined use cases, so very domain-specific application, which they use built in Qlik, in our Qlik cloud, to predict patients' behaviors, particularly which patients are at most risk of missing or cancelling appointments. And missed and cancelled appointments for any healthcare organization is a huge drain on resources. It slows patient throughput down dramatically. So they built this capability, and that's now saved them, over their 15 clinics in which they operate, over $6 million by just getting smarter at understanding that patient throughput and build that set of capability. Now they can manage that workflow much quicker and use those savings for much more value creation activities, in this case, the care of their patients.
Love that. So many great examples, and also a great point about some of the pitfalls and the FOMO of companies wanting to be involved with the AI narrative without knowing what business goal or problem that they're solving. It kind of reminds me of when every business wanted a smartphone app a decade ago. But I'm curious, what are some of the biggest challenges that you're currently seeing in the field of AI and data analytics, and how at Qlik are you addressing these challenges and helping guide your customers through this period?
Yeah, I mentioned a couple of them, just earlier. I think, look, for me, there are a couple of elements, probably 5 or 6 sort of pitfalls that I regularly talk about. The first is, of course, making a plan. I think with any technology investment, having a clear set of goals in mind. Again, I go back to my roots as a product person. Think about that pragmatic framework. Think about the principles of product management. What problem are you trying to solve? What are the requirements you have in solving that problem? And therefore, what are the requirements of the data that you've got? And applying those same principles to AI, I think, is key. Think about the infrastructure that you've got. We've seen organizations, and I think I started the conversation today with this notion of big data and the 4 V's of big data. Today, I think, as I said, a lot of organizations don't have a data fabric that they believe is fully ready for the type of AI and generative AI initiatives they want to support. So understanding the current infrastructure you've got and how that can scale, because you're going to see more demands for data, more variety of data. There's going to be more governance requirements put on that data. So understanding the current landscape is key, because the last thing you want to do is throw a bunch of generative AI at something and then break that infrastructure such that all of the things that you invested in over the last 30 years around data and analytics the value there is put at risk. So that's the second thing. The third thing I would always touch on is, again, establish that foundation. Once you understand the landscape, build the infrastructure that will support and scale to your AI needs long term. The fourth thing is, don't get so fixated on ChatGPT type technologies. Think about your investment, not just in generative AI, but all forms of analytics and AI. There's a huge amount of value that can still be created from ML, from predictive analytics. I still speak to organizations, Neil, and you probably stumbled across them, that say, I'm still trying to get folks to consume the reports that I've been putting out for the last 10 years. How do I drive that next level of engagement? So a broad, holistic approach, I think, is key. Don't just think about this as a a science project. And then I think the final thing then is think about how you want to deploy generative AI. Think about the different types of deployment options that exist around LLMs. Think about where you want to deploy that. Are you going to work in a public domain? Are you going to do and create private controlled models? Are you going to look to share those models out with some of the announcements that have come from OpenAI recently? Creating data products, creating models, and then monetizing them down the line is going to be key. So think about that breadth of deployment options as well, because there are speed, but also cost considerations to take into mind around how you think about that. And then the one last thing, my Steve Jobs moment, is the number 6, which really is don't forget about people. Don't forget about the people in the organization. Data literacy, as I said earlier, has been a force that has slowed value creation from data and analytics investments. And I think as we think about the world of AI, helping folks understand it, how to work with it, how to trust it, when to question it is critically important as well. And investing, just as we've always said in this world, it's about people, it's about the process, and it's about the technology. Get all of those things right, then I think folks will be in good stead and can manage the opportunity and the risk moving forward.
So much gold in your advice there. Fantastic. And if we look ahead for a moment, how do you see the role of AI and machine learning evolving in the business intelligence space next year? And also, I know you can't share too much. You're probably locked down. We've got the trends article to look forward to in January. But is there anything you can share, any teasers around future developments that we might also be able to expect from Qlik in this area next year?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to see us make a host of investments across each of the 3 dimensions that we have sort of built into the Qlik stage framework. So as we continue to bring Qlik and the Talend products together, delivering best-in-class capabilities that work in a hybrid cloud environment, work in any cloud infrastructure with that rich set of ingestion, movement, preparation, quality, governance capabilities is really the foundation for all of our customers' investments in generative AI and indeed all forms of analytics. So we'll continue to build that out. We'll continue to strengthen our ability to help customers treat data as a product and create those monetizable assets of data, either directly or indirectly. You'll see us continue to think about how we can leverage AI and generative AI to lower the barrier to entry, to speed time to value by augmenting a whole host of processes within the analytic data pipeline, an area that Qlik has been a leader in for, at least the last 5 years since we introduced our Insight Advisor type capability. And then, again, that third pillar about those more advanced deployment options, enriching the way in which you can prepare data for AI and ML use cases, create and train those models, leverage the infrastructure we have within our cloud platform, that understanding that customers can have into their structured data, and then start to see that come together with unstructured data as well. So there's a lot to be said here. And again, I think we'll see some of that summarized in the trends that we'll be putting out, as I said, in the new year. And of course, I hope to see you at the next Qlik customer conference, Qlik Connect, in the middle of next year, this time in Orlando, where we'll be able to showcase even more of this to our global customer base.
Fantastic. Well, hopefully we can meet up there and grab a drink and a good conversation in person. But before I let you go, as you may know, I always ask my guests to leave one final insight with everyone listening, and that is either a book that means something to them that they'd like to recommend, or a song we can add to our Spotify playlist. Guilty pleasures are allowed, but all I'm going to ask is, what would you like to leave everyone with and why?
I'm going to go with a book, because if it's a song choice, it could well end up being embarrassing for me. I'll go with the book option. So there's a great book by a guy called Matthew Said, and it's actually called Rebel Ideas, and it's about the power of diverse thinking. And Matthew is an individual that's worked in the field of people and management. He was an advisor to Gareth Southgate when he first put his England team together, and it's all about thinking about the power of diversity, not just from a moral or a political or a social perspective, which is, of course, critically important, but actually recognizing the power of diverse thinking on performance and on innovation. So it's a great lesson in life. It's a great lesson to bring into the workplace. And I think it's a lesson that, in the world of AI, data and analytics is critically important as well. And, I'm perhaps twisting the notion of the book a little bit when I say that, diversity in our lives is critically important, and diversity in data is critically important as well. So a rich form of data is, I think, the foundation for true value from AI and analytics. And that creates richness, just as diversity creates richness in our life. And Matthew does a great job of articulating and telling that story.
Wow, a cracking book. I'll get that added to our Amazon wish list. And for anyone listening just wants to keep up to speed with all things Qlik, maybe prepare to see that trends article when it comes out, and also just contact your team if they've got any particular questions after listening to our conversation today. Where would you like to point everyone listening?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so many places that we could point to in this day and age. Yeah. Well, you'll find me on X, formerly Twitter. You'll find me on LinkedIn. And of course, you can stay up to date on everything, Qlik.com, Qlik.com. Be part of our community, join Qlik community, engage in a conversation with all of our customers, all of our partners that are out there. And there you'll be able to find out about our roadmap, our delivery, our events, and of course, if there was a better way to learn more about Qlik, sign up for Qlik Cloud. And there you can start to experience a whole host of different things that we talked about today.
So awesome. Well, I'll get those links added to the show notes so people can find you nice and easily. Just love discussing the role of AI and GenAI in data analytics and business intelligence, why data must be at the very core of any AI development. And also a big thank you for sharing some customer examples to bring everything we're talking about to life. Huge pleasure as always. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. Good to talk to you again.
So a big thank you to James for an enlightening conversation on Qlik's vision and the transformative impact of AI in data analytics and business intelligence. And for me, I think the episode underscored the critical role of data quality and governance in the success of AI and the innovative strides that Qlik is making in this domain. But remember, generative AI is so much more than just another tech trend. It's actually a tool that can drive diverse thinking and innovation when applied correctly. If you are a business or IT leader listening to this podcast and you have users screaming to get their hands on Apple MacBooks in the workplace, I've been listening to a new podcast that might be right up your street. It's from the global tech solutions provider SHI, and they've launched a podcast called We Got Your Mac. And essentially, it's a podcast dedicated to helping businesses decide if the Apple Mac platform is right for their users and their organisation. And every 2 weeks, they invite expert guests to explain the ins and outs of adopting Mac at scale. So you can learn more at wegotyourmac.com or find Season 1 wherever you listen to your podcast. Well, as always, any questions, Neil C. Hughes at techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes. Nice and easy to find, but it's time for me to sign off. So thank you for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.